I just finished another day of writing for book two of my trilogy, and I'm still in the outline phase. But I realized something today, or I noticed something. Book two is likely going to be darker than book one, and just in the outline phase, I felt it. It reminded me of something that this author said. Her name's Cynthia Bond, and she wrote this book, Ruby. And Ruby gets really dark, beautifully written, but a lot of rape of everybody. I feel like men, women, children at one point all get raped. And it was so intense and so extreme. And she had said that sometimes getting into a character's head like that might make you want to drink. And as a writer, and I don't think I agree with that. I think actually, for me personally, it's kind of the opposite. So one of the best pieces of advice I ever received around writing your story, especially if your story has trauma in it, is write your scars, not your wounds, because your scars have healed over. Your scars have scar tissue, but your wounds, they're not. And really, when you write a story and then you give it to the world, it's not yours anymore. It's the world. And so you're just giving the world your wounds to play with. I think that's one of my issues I had with Ruby. It felt like, and I don't know Cynthia Bond at all, but it did feel like somebody was writing their wounds and not just their scars. I think that's why I used the word extreme when I was talking about all the rape in the book. But anyway, my book doesn't have any rape. Try intentionally to stay away from that, but it does feel darker. And I was thinking a couple of things. I was thinking about how comforting a dark story can be for some people, like me, honestly. One of the side effects by having PTSD for me is that I am kind of comfortable in those dark spaces, and I think I was really insecure about that in my first book. My first book, I wouldn't say it's dark. I think it can be challenging and hard, and psychologically, you see a person who's in a dark place, but I never really truly pick at that scar tissue, so to speak, and see what's really going on there, because it's my first book. It's been really hard already just trying to get published, trying to get noticed. I'll tell you something as a Black human, which feeds into my life as a Black author. Being Black in America is a perpetual experience of trying over and over again to prove your humanity, which is a habit I'm very diligently trying to get out of. I'm tired of trying to prove my humanity. The thing is, in the back of my head, I just thought, if my humanity is up for question, then how can anybody understand my story? If you can't understand my humanity, how can you understand my story? And so I think with book one, I was trying really hard for clarity and simplicity without losing my voice and losing the actual story, just to kind of bridge some of that. It reminded me of this paradox with school, how even bad advice that I got in workshops was in some way valuable. So one person, and I only have one more workshop left, and to date, she is absolutely the worst classmate I've ever had, which was full on racist with me in class. And because of the rules of workshop, I wasn't allowed to speak, but later on, my professor confessed, yeah, she was wrong. And it was really interesting because it was subtle, but I knew it was happening. And I never read her letters that this classmates have to write letters and send them to other classmates regarding their work. I stopped reading them because they were just so negative. But even her advice, like even her perspective on my story was of value to me, because in some ways that's the lowest common denominator of the audience I'm trying to reach or connect with, or at the very least, trying to acknowledge. I won't say I don't care, but I'm not trying to build an audience of everybody, but I do want to do the best I can to give everybody on the planet a chance, which might be super ambitious of me, especially since so many people in the world don't even speak English. That's a starter as far as challenges go, but that's my approach. Being communicative, building a connection. I'll tell you a secret. I'm really smart in the super technical IQ sense. It's just something I inherited from my mom. It doesn't really mean anything unless you do something with it. But that's something that's always kind of come across about me first, which as an artist, which I never pursued and I never really appreciated. I think if I, speaking out of my vanity or my ego, I think I wanted my vulnerability or my honest desire to just be honest will come across more. But I think when going for simplicity, right, as a writer and wanting to connect, it's funny how I had to use different types of smarts. Like instead of like bookish intelligence, I had to use emotional intelligence or relational intelligence. And I'm not bad at that, but I also read books about it so I could do it better, you know, because it really is about the communication for me and the connection. And I think that kind of goes back to my point about when writing in trauma. Um, Write your scars, not your wounds, because you are connecting with somebody, and you're going to connect with people who can't recognize your humanity, who aren't even, take the people suck element out of it, who just aren't able to recognize your humanity, who just don't have the tools for whatever reason. And so there's certain parts of yourself as a writer, as a person, that, you know, maybe the world isn't worthy of or isn't deserving of, and that's okay. That is your choice to make. I honor that. I try to do that myself. And yeah, I think this is a good place to stop. Deuces.